Dearly beloved in Jesus Christ, chapter 53rd of Prophet Isaiah predominantly portrays Messiah as suffering servant who would enter into his glory by suffering. In the Gospel, James and John aim at glory without suffering. While answering their request, Jesus throws light upon Christian glory which can be achieved through meaningful suffering. Jesus was heading towards Jerusalem and he began to make his disciples understand that he would be subjected to suffering and then enter into eternal glory. But the disciples seemed to deliberately neglect the suffering aspect and concentrate only on glory content. That's why two of the three inner circle disciples, namely James and John, approached Jesus with an irrelevant request. In our day-to-day life too, we too often aim for great heights without preparing our minds for the possible difficulties that the goal would bring. Remember, great men and women who created history had undergone great suffering for the cause. Thomas Harris, an American writer, mentions, "One must be hurt sufficiently to become great." In gist, the Gospel explains there is no Christian glory without entering through the narrow gate. It is very interesting to notice how Jesus brings out this notion of glory through suffering. He poses two pensive questions. Can you drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with which I am baptized? What he is saying here is, can you bear to go through the terrible experience which I have to go through? Or can you face being submerged in hatred, in pain, and in death as I have to be? He was telling these two disciples that without a cross, there can never be a crown. The standard of greatness in the kingdom is standard of the cross. Their answer was immediate and impulsive. Yes, we can. Though they were not aware of the implications of their answer. But it was true that in the days to come, they did go through the experience of their master. For James was beheaded by Herod Agrippa, Acts 12:2, and though John was probably not martyred, he suffered much for Christ. They accepted the challenge of their master, even if they did so blindly. Towards the last paragraph of today's Gospel, Jesus directly explains the manifesto of Christian leadership in terms of suffering servant. During Jesus' earthly life, Jews were under Roman captivity, and Roman leaders used to lord it over them, making their lives miserable. Consequently, they knew only authoritarian leadership. Contrary to this, Jesus teaches them servant leadership. Today's first reading also speaks about the same theme. Yet Yahweh, through his suffering, my servant shall justify many. Isaiah 53:11. In this modern scenario, the concept of servant leadership may not be very easily understood, because those who suffer are the weak, the poor, and the marginalized. And obviously, there cannot emerge a leader from this group. But understand The suffering meant here is not suffering of material lack, but suffering for a cause. To all those genuine, authentic Christians who suffer for the sake of the righteousness, we have consolation. For we hear, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Remember, Jesus himself was tempted and suffered. For the second reading tells, we have a high priest who can sympathize with our own weaknesses. And he was also tested in every way that we are. So, he will strengthen us in our weaknesses when we suffer for a cause. In conclusion, today's liturgy of the word tells us two important notions. The first one, through suffering we enter eternal glory. The second one, Christian leadership is servant leadership. Let God bless us all.